While you were sleeping, New Zealand's economic landscape just shifted. A massive global peace deal has triggered a sudden drop in oil prices. But behind closed doors, a quiet war is brewing right here at home in New Zealand. Our government is demanding immediate price cuts from fuel companies. Meanwhile, our biggest bank just swapped its leadership. And the manufacturing sector has quietly plunged into a dangerous slump. Is this temporary relief, or are we staring down a barrel of economic storm? Let's look at the facts. To understand where we are going, we have to look at where we just come from. For the past year, Kiwi families and immigrants have been crushed by the cost of living. High inflation, brutal interest rates, and fuel prices that made driving to work a luxury. A lot of this was driven by chaos in the Middle East. Shipping routes were disrupted. Global oil prices soared. Now the United States and Iran have signed a major peace deal. Global markets react instantly. Crude oil prices crashed. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon and Finance Minister Nicola Willis welcomed the news. But they did something else too. They issued a direct, aggressive warning to local fuel companies. They want those global savings passed on to New Zealanders at the pump immediately. Because for months, the government has used global chaos as a reason for our pain. Now, chaos is erased. The pressure is on. Let's break down specific sectors driving this high-stakes movement. First up, the corporate shakeup. In New Zealand, our absolute biggest lender just replaced its CEO. The Chief Risk Officer, Ben Keller, is taking the reins from Antonia Watson. Why does this risk officer taking charge matter? Because the banking sector is preparing for a rough ride. Look at the latest macroeconomic data. The upcoming March quarter GDP figures look okay on paper. Economists expect a small 1%, but analysts are calling this a calm before the storm. This data doesn't include the worst of recent global trade disruption, and the real-time indicators are flashing red. The manufacturing sector officially slipped into a contraction territory for May. Truck traffic in our roads, the ANZ truckometer, is losing momentum. Less freight means less business than there is in the housing market. The latest REINZ data confirms a massive winter slump. Sales volumes have crashed. Auction clearance rates are weak. About a third of properties are actually selling. At the same time, we have rising insurance pressure. Insurance becoming unaffordable in a high-risk climate zones. The Natural Hazards Commission just issued to secure a massive $12.3 billion reinsurance cover just to keep the system stable. This is where the real tension lies. There are two distinct sides of this coin. Let's look at the pros and cons. The big pro is cheaper fuel will give immediate relief to struggling households. It keeps the cost of transporting groceries down. But the cons are heavy. A cooling domestic market means businesses are pulling back. How does this affect everyday Kiwi? The housing slump means homeowners are seeing their equity vanish. The insurance crisis means some Kiwis might soon own a home that are completely uninsurable. Now look at how this impacts immigrants. Many immigrants arrived recently on the promise of a booming economy. Instead, they are facing contracting manufacturing sector. When manufacturing and logistics slows down, entry-level and skilled migrant jobs disappear first. Furthermore, banking shift means tighter lending criteria. Immigrants trying to buy their first Kiwi home will find it even harder to get bank approval from risk-focused ANZ. Critics are accusing the government of using the fuel price narrative to distract from a failing domestic economy. They argue that demanding cheap petrol doesn't fix crashing housing market or a shrinking job market. So what happens next? The global oil drop will hit our pump over the next few weeks. But the real text comes later this year. When the true delayed economy data drops, we will see how deep this recession actually goes. The government is betting big that global relief will save us from a domestic failure. The leadership changes at our biggest banks prove that corporate world is heavily guarding against risk. If you are working Kiwi or an immigrant trying to make a life here, the map just changed. Cheap fuel prices enough to save your household budget? Or are you worried about your job security as a manufacturing shrinks? And why are government fixing one thing but always breaking the other thing? Can't they have a system that can work with more pros than less cons? Why they end up spending billions of dollars on a statistics and the rough data they receive before they run into the factors and do the job? Why cannot they, are spending all that money, get something solid together as a solution that doesn't fix one thing and break the other thing? Why can't they think more than the term of their political career? Or is this a trap they're trying to get us into? Let me know your thoughts below in the comments and let's discuss it without any biased